Hi everyone, I'm Ali Grayman. Today I wanted to talk to you about what happens when you have a setback, a step back, as I say, right? First of all, again, if you haven't listened to my earlier videos, I can tell you that there's not one person in 9 years of doing this, which I can't believe it's been that long. But in 9 years, I have never had a person go through recovery without a single setback. Setbacks happen and it's okay. It seems like it's a normal way for the brain because the brain is always trying to bring up a thought that scares you. So at some point, you're going to fall for it. But are you going to fall for it and fall into compulsions or analyzing for an hour, a day, a week, a month? That's what matters. And you can't allow yourself to fall into it for a long time. It has to be like, okay, you say you reacted the wrong way, did a compulsion kind of in the anxiety of the moment. But then, okay, wait a minute, I shouldn't have done it. I have to get back on the path of recovery. I'm choosing to move on. You know what I mean? So it doesn't last that long. Like at max, try to limit it to an hour or two. You can't allow yourself to fall into it and analyze day after day, because then you really start to have not just a step back, but a big setback. So you really have to pull through and say, you know what? I've done it for a little bit. That's fine. And also understanding what caused it. When I talk to clients in sessions, it's important to look at the setback objectively. Was the person stressed out? Did they put too much on themselves? Did they get maybe into an argument with somebody? Did some life situation happen that they didn't expect and that sidetracked them? Maybe just a thought came in that triggered them, or somebody brought up a topic, or they saw something on TV that triggered it. You know what I mean? But it's important for you, from a position of objectivity, to see exactly what happened. What happened before the setback? What caused it? You know, because then you can fix it. So say for example, if it's a certain trigger, right? Okay, so let's do some exposures on that trigger. Maybe it's a news article. So then you find that same article. Before you look at it again, you say, you know what, it's just OCD. I'm not going to react, and I'm going to go through it the same way, but this time I'm not going to react. Or if you have a certain like physical situation that triggers you, like a certain place that triggers you, right? So putting yourself in that situation and saying, okay, this time I'm not reacting, again, within reason. Like, I'm not saying for you to do something that an average person wouldn't do, but if it's a normal standard behavior that everybody else is doing but you're not, then you have to practice doing it and seeing what actually happened. And if it's stress, right? Well, did I need to pile everything on in that one day? Probably not. you know or maybe somebody else piled something on top of you that you didn't want to deal with, and it became too much. So preparing yourself to maybe take a different approach next time, not allow yourself to get caught up in everyday life stuff. Or another situation that sometimes I talk to people who are, they're stressed out, and their job is such that they're always going to be stressed out. There's no way around it. That's just how their job is. That's how their life is. So in that situation, creating an equal level of stress each day is helpful. So yes, you're stressed, but because you're stressed the same amount, even if it's a high amount each day, the mind will get used to it, and it won't trigger OCD when you are in that in that level of stress. So objectively looking at what happened wrong, don't blame yourself. Don't say, oh, I failed, this is it, I'm never going to recover, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And I guess it's, to an extent, it's natural to feel like that. But just like you're stopping analyzing with OCD stuff, you have to stop this negative thinking as well, because all in all, you can't allow yourself to have negative thinking while you are recovering. You have to limit it, not just negative thinking with OCD specifically. That's definitely true. But on top of it, having negative thinking as it relates to just life stuff. Because again, the part of the brain that's causing this problem doesn't understand what the thought is. So whether you're worrying about life stress, whether you're worrying about OCD, it doesn't care. It doesn't understand. So a lot of the time when a person is stressed out, after that stress kind of dissipates, goes away, OCD stress comes in, because the mind is just throwing the next thing, and the next thing is OCD. So you have to look at it as it's not just OCD. It's not just real life stress. It's not just negative thinking. It's not just feeling depressed, you know what I mean? Or not doing anything or not going anywhere because you're feeling bad, anxious, depressed, all of it. You have to be always propelling yourself forward, always saying, you know what? I have to do this. It's kind of faking it till you make it, right? You have to fake it to show your mind that everything is okay. Everything is normal. No need to send me the thoughts. Everything is fine. And the mind will adjust to it. Just like it adjusted to when you started to react with a lot of fear and say, oh my God, everything is wrong. Everybody's going to die. The world is going to collapse. It adjusted to that, so it can adjust back as well. But you have to send the right signal, and in terms of steps back happen. But the percentage of steps forward versus steps back has to be about 80% forward and 20 back because things happen, or 90% forward, 10% back. And at the same time, I understand that when a person starts out on a journey of OCD recovery, they don't start out with that high of a percentage. Obviously, they start out with about 100% reassurance. But if this week you did 100 and next week you did 90% reassurance, and then 80, and then until you get to 50-50, and then going up from there, do you know what I mean? You will get to that 80-20, 90-10. As long as there's progression happening week to week. Day to day, it's hard because, again, real life gets in the way, and if you get stressed out, then your day to day will look kind of messy. But week to week, you should be seeing progress. And again, if you're not, look at it mindful from a position like a third person position, right? Not judging it, not blaming yourself, no negative emotion, but just like, okay, this is what happened. How did it happen? And what can I do next time to make sure I have a better reaction, Overall, I find it also helpful that if certain situations trigger you, certain say conversations trigger you, before going into that, which would be at this point an exposure, right? Before going into an exposure, kind of psyching yourself up in a way kind of like a coach does before a football game, for example. That I'm going to go in there, it's going to be tough, I'm going to get anxiety, I'm not going to react, so you kind of prepare yourself so that when you go in there and you do have anxiety, then you're going to say, oh, well, I prepared for it, I practiced for it, that's fine. I hope you find these videos helpful. If you would like to do the recovery program, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. You can sign up there. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.